welcome to another reading vlog. Today I'm doing a very special reading vlog that I have been wanting to do for a little while now, and I'm finally getting around to it. Today I'm going to attempt to read all 8 Spiderwick books in 24 hours. So I have never read these books before, and when Disney Plus announced that they are turning it into a series, I thought I may as well read the books. But they've only just announced that they're doing it. They haven't filmed it, they haven't cast anyone yet. So I'm probably a little bit jumping the gun a bit here, but I feel like there's no better time than the present, and if I left it any longer I would probably forget that I wanted to do this. Plus I had the task of reserving all of these books from the library because they've had to come from several different branches, and I actually wasn't able to get the third one. We only have one copy of the hardback edition, so the only other copy that I could find of the third book was the large print edition, so I will be reading that. But yes, Spiderwick. Like I said, I've never read these books before. I think I have seen the film when it first came out, like in 2007, but I don't remember it very well, and I don't know if I ever actually saw it all the way through. This is very much me going into this series for the first time. I've never read a Holly Black book before. I've never read a Tony D to Lizzie book before, which I didn't realise this was dual authored. I thought it was only written by Holly Black. But yes, so basically this series is about these 3 siblings who move into this really old house and find this book that is basically a field guide to finding fairies, and the kind of fairies where it's like brownies and boggarts and things, and I guess it's just what happens as a result of them finding this book. So I did actually read the first book, the field guide, last night, and yeah, it was cool. They're only like 100 pages each. This took me like 30 minutes to read, plus they are fully illustrated. We've got full page illustrations, we've got half page illustrations, so there is not a lot of text on the page, so they are really quick and easy to read. So yeah, it took me like 30 minutes to read this book. So in the first one, it's just the story of the Grace children, I think that's their surname. Yeah, so it's the story of the Grace children. Jared, Simon and their big sister Mallory move into a old house, which I think is Spiderwick Manor, because they've like inherited it with their mom, and they have something going on in their house. Something weird is happening. They can hear things in the walls. Mallory wakes up one morning and her hair has been tied to her bed frame, and they're trying to work out what's going on. Jared's getting all the blame for it, and it turns out they have a boggart. And Jared finds this book called Arthur Spiderwick's Field Guide to something about fairies. I can't remember what it was called now. The book is called Arthur Spiderwick's Field Guide to the Fantastical World Around You, and it's a book about fairies and fairy spotting. And here is the entry of a boggart from the book. They find that they have a boggart in the house, they appease the boggart, and then the boggart basically tells them, you don't want to mess with that book because it will only draw bad things to you. It was 100 pages. It sort of felt like the first couple of chapters in a longer book, and I think that's probably how all of these books are going to feel. Although they are 8 separate books, they are definitely going to feel like one big long book, I suppose, because the first 5 books are part of the original Spiderwick Chronicles, and then the last 3 books are the series beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles, so they'll probably feel like 2 separate books rather than one big long book. I definitely feel like the first 5 books will just feel like they are part of one big long book. Probably not going to rate them all individually. I'll probably just rate them all the same thing at the end when I've read all of them, because it wasn't really enough for me to rate this book on. It was good, it was interesting. When I finished it, I really just wanted to pick up the next one immediately, and I think that if this were published today, maybe it would be published as like a couple of longer books. This series was originally published in 2003, which probably had very different target audiences to what we do today in middle grade. I definitely think shorter, more concise and petite books, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, were more marketable to kids back in the early noughties than today, where we do see a lot of longer middle grade books. It doesn't read very childlike, which is kind of what I was anticipating because they're so short. It's definitely on the more, I don't know, because Jared and Simon are twins. They are 9 years old, and then Mallory is 13. So I definitely feel like it kind of is teetering on the edge of like younger middle grade and older middle grade. It's very in between. But yeah, it was fun. What I really like as well is, but all of the books start with these 2 pages, which is a letter from Holly Black and then a letter from the Grace children. And it's basically the idea that the Grace children contacted Holly Black and Tony Lizzie about something that happened to them, and they wanted Holly and Tony to write a book about it. So it's kind of like the idea that this is a true story, which I really like. I really like that, and that Tony and Holly have just sort of novelised it for the Grace children. It was good. I really loved the illustrations. It just only adds to it. And there are a few full colour illustrations. So here we have a page of a riddle that Jared finds, and it's like a full colour letter. And then I think all of the books start with this as well. There is a full colour illustration right at the start of the book next to the title page, and that's Jared finding a picture of Arthur Spiderwick, who he finds out is his ancestor. I am going to try and read all of these books today. It's my day off work. I think I can do it. If they're all like 100 pages each, that's like 800 pages in a day. But because they are short books, they are middle grade, I finished the first one in half an hour, so I think it won't take me too long. So that's the first 5 books in the Spiderwick Chronicles, which is about the Grace children. And then the last 3 books are a little bit longer, as you can see. So yeah, they're more like 200 pages. And that's beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles, which I think, oh well, that's the 3rd book. Why are we looking at that? Here we go. I think that's the first one. No, that's the second one. That's the first one. So I think this is about maybe the Grace children's relatives or something. But yeah, this was a follow-up series, and by the looks of it, it was published in 2007. So this was probably written in response to the film that came out. Which is making me wonder, is the film just like all of the books as one longer story? Because there's no way like the film is just the first book, or maybe it's like the first 3 books, but I feel like it would have served better to be one long story. I was hoping to watch the film after I'd read all of these, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I had a look yesterday and it's not on Netflix, it's not on Disney Plus, it's not on Amazon, it's not on Sky. Those are all of my options that are available to me right now, so I don't think I'm going to be able to watch the film unless it comes onto one of those streaming platforms at some point. Yeah, so I'm going to go and start my day and read The Seeing Stone, which is book 2. Hello, so I have just finished book 2, The Seeing Stone. This is the one that I remember most about from the film. So the Grace children find this stone with a hole in it that lets them see fairies. It's very important for this book because Simon ends up being captured by goblins and Jared and Mallory have to go and find him. And we get a little bit more insight into what is really out there in the world. So in the first book, we kind of only experience Thimbletack, who is the brownie / boggart in the Spiderwick house, whereas now we meet goblins. We meet a hobgoblin called Hogsqueal, we find trolls, and by the end of the book, Simon, who absolutely loves animals, convinces his siblings to let him adopt a injured griffin that they keep in the barn. So I'm really interested to see what happens next. There is a really ominous and sinister undertone to this series. I like that because there are the whole thing about fairies in like folklore is that they are mischievous, they play tricks on humans, and I really like that that's what we get in this series. So there's a very sinister undertone to this that is leading up to something, so I'm interested to see where that goes. But again, this book was so short, it was literally like 100 pages, so it definitely felt like the next chapter almost in a much longer book. Something I think that is really cool about this book is it doesn't really have a blurb. So you have like the letter, which would have the blurb of the book, but all of the back covers have like a little note on the back of them kind of warning you to not read the book, because I suppose that's like a message from the Fae to say like, stay away because we don't want you looking in on our world, which brings the story into like the real world, like with the notes that are at the start of each book from the Grace Children and Holly Black. But I think that's really cool, like the idea that these Fae could actually like be in our world, which I really love because I was like raised on fairy stories, and I think if I had read this as a kid I would have really loved it. So I'm sad that I missed out on that whimsy of it all when I was actually a kid. But this is definitely holding up today as well. This was obviously published nearly 20 years ago, and it's still holding up today as a good story. I might go and read book 3 now and then take a break to get some of my things I need to do done, because I feel like I'm on a bit of a roll at the moment. Really awkward position because my cat is in my blanket. But I've just finished book 3, Lucinda's Secret, and this series is getting quite dark. So in this book, the Grace kids go to visit their aunt Lucinda, who is the only living Spiderwick left. She is the daughter of Arthur Spiderwick, who wrote the field guide that Jared finds, and she is the cousin of the Grace children's grandmother. They basically go to see her to ask her about the book, and she tells them, you know, you need to get out of that house, it's dangerous. Then the Grace children realise that the book is missing. They think that Thimbletack has hidden it from them, and then they go to find these elves, or rather I think they go to find, what are they going to find actually? It's a really good point. They walk off into the woods, but I can't remember what actually they were going to find. But then anyway, they come across these elves, and the elves say to them, give us the book and we'll leave you alone. And they're like, no, we're not going to give you the book because Arthur Spiderwick wasn't going to give you the book. Because there's a lot of information in the book that must be valuable to the big bad, Mulgarath. He's a goblin that has been... No, he's not a goblin. He's an ogre who has been hiring goblins to be like his mercenaries and wreaking havoc in Fae. But yeah, the Grace children tell the elves, we're not going to give you the book, and then they trick the elves into letting them go. It's definitely going to look bad on them. The thing about the kids in this book is they're very cocky, and they seem to think that they know better than what everyone is telling them. Aunt Lucinda telling them, get rid of the book. The elves telling them, get rid of the book. Get out of that house, it's dangerous. And they seem to think that they know better, which, you know, is typical for kids. Like, so many red flags. And they're just not listening. I quite like the depth of these characters, even though this is only a really short middle grade series. The kids' dad has left them, and Jared is really struggling to deal with that. Before the series, he's like got into fights at school, and he's just been acting up. And I think that finding the book about the Fae and finding himself in the world of fairies has been sort of an outlet for him, and that's why he's so attached to the book and really doesn't want to give it up. And then in this book, the kids, they find out that Arthur Spiderwick actually left his family as well, or so Lucinda has told them. What I think has actually happened is he went to the elves, and then they captured him and he went missing essentially. I think it's been quite difficult for Jared to sort of process that his own father has left him, and then Arthur, who he kind of looked up to, who, you know, because he'd written this book and he'd unearthed all these things about fairies, and he found out he's actually not a good guy. So I think Jared has been really struggling with that. Jared has quite a lot of depth to him, whereas his brother Simon and his sister Mallory kind of feel a little bit more two-dimensional. Jared is the main character, so I suppose, like, I'll let it slide. But even still, like, Simon has his interests, he loves animals, and Mallory, she's really into fencing, which I think is kind of random. I quite enjoyed this one and learning a little bit more about Spiderwick and meeting Aunt Lucinda. And again, it's got this really ominous undertone of, like, what's going to happen to them next. They come across a really strange creature called a Fuka, which I thought was a bit weird. I've never heard of that. I don't know if it's something that's been made up for this series or if it's an actual mythical creature. Every magical creature in this talks in riddles, talks in rhyme. So trying to work out what is happening is, like, really difficult. But I think that's how the Grace children feel. They are also like, what the hell is going on? Why won't anyone just tell us things straight, you know? Again, took me like 30 minutes to finish, so this is a really good fast-paced series, and I'll probably just go and start the next one, I think, and see if I can finish the first 5 at least today. Hello! Another thing I'd like to mention as well is that at the end of all the books, there's a page that kind of has a rhyme about what's going to happen in the next one, catching you up on the story so far and then giving you a hint as to what's going to happen next. So in the 4th book, the Ironwood Tree, the Grace children are apparently going to meet a dwarf king, which is very interesting. So I am excited to see what she got. What's gonna happen next? Hello. Okay, so I've just finished the Ironwood Tree. It will look like no time has passed since my last update, but I have just finished it. And again, about 30 minutes to read. I like this one a little bit more than the first 3, just because it was a bit more exciting. So in this book, Mallory has a fencing competition at school, and Jared sees something searching through her bag during the competition. And so he goes over to be like, what are you doing in my sister's bag? He gets in trouble. It turns out that the thing is like a copy of him. So someone's clearly playing a trick. He pulls out his knife on the person who looks like him, and he gets in trouble and he gets expelled from school for 10 days. So he's just getting himself into more and more trouble, which is really not good for him. And his mom phones his dad and is like, he might have to go and live with you for a bit because I don't know what to do. And I feel so bad for his mom because she's clearly just trying her best. Jared just keeps getting himself into trouble, and it's not his fault at this point. It's the fairies that are playing all these tricks on him. But then Mallory goes missing, and it turns out she's been captured by dwarves. So Jared and Simon have to go and rescue her. And everything that happens with the dwarves is quite exciting. It's all really fast paced because this is 100 pages. So everything that happens in really quick succession, and I think that's my only complaint about this series, that all of the books, because they're so short, happen really quickly. There's not really any build up to anything. It's kind of just like you're thrown straight into what's happening, which is good, I suppose, for children, because if they do have a shorter attention span, it means it gets straight into it without any of that build up that might be boring. But you know, as an adult reader, obviously it's something that I look for, to have that build up. So I'm just trying to see past that because I'm not the target audience for these books. This was quite an interesting one. It got very brutal at the end. This series is not afraid to introduce death and people and things being killed, which is unusual for middle grade, but I'm quite pleased that they were brave enough to do that. Obviously, I've only got one book left, which is the Wrath of Mulgarath. I'm feeling a little bit of reading fatigue though at the moment. I have read like 300 pages in succession today. So I think I'm going to take a short break before I dive into the last book of the first series, just because I don't want to get bored and I kind of feel like I'm rushing through them. So I'm going to go off and probably have a snack, maybe actually start wrapping my Christmas presents and just chill for a bit away from books, because I just need a short break. Okay, I've had my rest. I felt really like tetchy and I realised it's because I was hungry. Sometimes I just forget to eat lunch and I like feel really antsy and weird all day, and it's because I haven't eaten food, but I've eaten lunch. I had some smoked tofu in the fridge that needed using up, so I just sort of put some barbecue seasoning and oil on it, baked it, and then cut it up and had it on a sandwich with some crisps. And now I feel much better. I've also wrapped my Christmas presents, that's all done, and I am ready to get back into reading these books. So this is the last book in the Spiderwick Chronicles, and then I will have 3 books left to read for the Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles. This is a little bit longer than the other ones. This is 130 odd pages. I'm pretty sure the last 3 books are all closer to 200 pages, so they're all going to take me a little bit longer to read than the first 4 have, but I'm still anticipating maybe an hour per book maximum. We are making some good progress. It is currently 4:15, and when it gets to the evening I tend to get busier because everybody finishes work, there's dinner to cook, we all sort of like to watch TV together as a family, probably doing a bit of that. So I don't know if I will definitely finish all of the books by the end of today, but I will definitely finish them by the end of the weekend. If not, I'm just gonna go and read this. I will probably see you again when I have finished it. I did it! I finished it! So that is the first 5 books of the Spiderwick Chronicles completed, a series down, 3 to go. I really don't know if I have the concentration to read the next 3 books today. I'll probably read one at least tonight, but I definitely just need to take a full break from reading for now. This took me way longer to complete than I thought it would. To be fair, I was sitting in the living room with the TV on and my brother sat next to me and everybody coming back and forth, so many distractions were had. Hello. So many distractions were to be had. It was a good ending to the series. It was exciting. I just felt like that the defeat of Mulgarath and the big bad was a little bit too easy, but I suppose, you know, it's a kid's series, so I can't really blame it too much for that. But again, it was still quite dark and scary, and there was high stakes. I could really feel that there were high stakes in this series, even though you kind of could predict that everything was going to be all right in the end. I quite like that the map in this book is different to the others. It's called Mulgarath, the map of Mulgarath's domain instead, and it has like Mulgarath's castle and guide location, etc, etc, rather than it being the actual map that they find in Arthur Spiderwick's guide. And of course it has a happy ending as well, which was really cute. Yeah, I think I would probably give the original Spiderwick series like 4 stars perhaps. I'm trying to see it through the lens of the target audience and see it through my like child's mind's eye. Keep distracting me. Look at my baby. And not see it through like my adult brain, because obviously it's a kid's book. It's not going to be the same as reading an adult fantasy, obviously. So I think I will probably give them all 4 stars. You can't really rate them individually because they're so short and they are all part of the one greater story. This felt much more of a continuation of the last book than any of the first 3 to 4 books did. I feel like the first 3 books were kind of like their own individual stories within this wider universe, whereas the last 2 books are much more interconnected because I guess they take place so close together, whereas like the first 3 books there is like a few weeks gap between what happens in them. So yes, that is 5 of 8 completed. Yeah, I'm gonna go and make tea now and just try and relax my brain. looking at words on a page for so long just really takes it out of me for some reason. You can definitely have too much of a good thing, and I don't want to get bored of reading this series, so I think I'm just gonna take a full-on break now before diving into Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles, which is the next series. So yes, that was the Wrath of Mulgarath completed.
Tiếng khổ về hàng đêm.
No, Monty! Look at his face! No. Monty! Monty! Monty, look! Hey guys, I left my tripod downstairs and I can't be bothered to go and get it, so you're getting this really bad angle. So, it's now like 9:30. I know I'm not going to be able to finish all 8 books by the end of today. It's just not possible. Maybe if I didn't have work tomorrow, I could stay up and finish them. Honestly, I don't want to do that. I feel really burned out from powering through literally 4 books today. And although I'm pretty proud of myself for reading 4 books, even though they were only 100 pages each, that's still like the equivalent of a whole book, a whole 400-page book that I read today. So I'm pretty pleased with that. But I feel like the coffee I had this morning really set me on edge for the whole day, and I've only just managed to chill out. I've done some self-care, did an eye mask, face mask, I've got my candles done, I've got my incense burning. We're gonna just chill and be zen for the rest of the evening. I do intend to start the Nixie song, which is book 1 of Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles tonight. I don't think I'll be able to finish it just because it is about 150 pages, so I would have to sit and read it for probably like an hour and a half for me to get through it, and I just don't know if I have it in me to sit and read for that amount of time tonight. But I do intend to finish this second follow-on series by the end of the weekend at the very least. So today's Thursday. But yes, so this series is set after the original one. I think we are following this kid, and this is his stepsister, and they live in Florida. Maybe he is the cousin of the Grace children. I'm sure I've read that somewhere, but yeah, basically this is set in Florida. The blurb is a little bit sort of in the same vein as the original Spiderwick Chronicles, where it has not really a blurb but like a message, but instead of it being the Fae telling you to not read these books, it's postcards. So all of the books have a postcard on the back, so I'll just read that to you now. So on the front it's a greetings from Florida postcard, and then the back says, "Think life here's all fun and sun, think again. It used to be pretty okay, but then I got this loser freak of a stepsister, and she didn't come alone. She brought this big, stupid book about fairies. She said that they were real, but did I believe her? No. I said it was all fake. Boy, was I wrong. Now there are fairies everywhere. Everywhere! And they're not going away unless we help them."
So I'm pretty interested to see what's going on with this series. It sounds like the Fae are going to be more friendly towards our human characters in this series, but I guess we'll see. It's still pretty much like the original series. You have your full colour illustration at the front on the title page, and then we have illustrations throughout. So you've got half-page illustrations and full-page illustrations. So it's going to be the same sort of vibes, just different, and I'm hoping it does have a different story to it. Because these books are longer as well, I'm hoping that means that there's a little bit more room for things to go into a little bit more depth. What I feel the original Spiderwick series was missing is descriptions and the history and the lore of the Fae, which you would have found in the guide. So, because the books were so short, there wasn't really much room for that, so I'm really hoping we get a little bit more of that in these books, because that's, I think, what was really missing for me as someone who is a fantasy lover. Like, I want to know the history and the lore and the depth, and I want to know everything about all these creatures instead of just the action scenes that we were getting. So yes, I will definitely be starting this tonight.
Another bad angle, because I still haven't gone to get my tripod. And also it's 12:30 in the morning and I have to get up for work at 7. So that's fun, but I said I wasn't going to finish it in one sitting and I did anyway. I really like this. This was a lot more fun than the original Chronicles for me. And I think it's just because it's a bit longer, so there's more room to build up the tension. So this follows Nick and Laurie, who are step-siblings. Their parents hadn't known each other very long when they got married, so both Laurie and Nick don't know each other very well. They don't get on. Laurie loves fairies. Something about this book is that the original Spiderwick Chronicles are a book series in this world, so it's very much breaking the fourth wall. So Laurie's a big fan of the book, and the two of them find a dried out Nixie and they rescue her. They put her in the lake, and then Nixie's like, please find my sisters. They go off to find her sisters and come across a giant. And in the book, if a giant eats a salamander imbued with magic, then they can breathe fire, and basically they are just trying to stop this giant from burning down the entire town, basically. And so Nick and Laurie go off to find out how they can stop this giant, and they end up going to a signing of Holly Black and Tony DeTilizzi so that they can find out more. And it's just it really got a bit meta, but I really liked it. It was really fun, and I'm really excited to see what happens next, because it kind of leaves off on a bit of a cliffhanger, where the original Spiderwick Chronicles sort of had like a gap of a few weeks between the end of each book. This feels like it's going to continue immediately. It also feels like it's one whole book, like this can stand on its own as a complete story, whereas the original one kind of didn't feel that way. It felt like each book was part of a greater story, whereas this one can stand on its own as its own thing. Obviously it's a series for a reason, but it at least you know that it doesn't feel like it's missing anything. So yeah, I really liked this one, but I'm gonna go to bed now and I'll probably read the next book, A Giant Problem, tomorrow. I literally just put the book down, was about to go to bed, and I saw this on the back of it, thinking that someone had scribbled on the library book, but nope, this is a feature of the book. It says Save My Sisters. That's cool as fuck. That is really cool. I feel like so much detail has gone into the craft and design of these books as a concept. You know, it's a reading experience, it's not just a book, and I love that about them. Yeah, that was really cool. Okay, I'm gonna make this quick because I'm exhausted and I have to go to work tomorrow on a Saturday, which sucks, but whatever. So today I finished A Giant Problem, which is the penultimate book of this vlog. So it is the second book in Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles, And I'm really enjoying this second series a lot more than the first one. I feel like it just is more cohesive, it's more of a contained story rather than kind of just random things happening to the kids. This one is basically a direct continuation of the first book in the trilogy. Laurie and Nick are trying to deal with a giant problem, which I think is a really interesting title because it's a problem that they've got with giants, but also it's like becoming a huge problem. So basically giants hibernate for 500 years and then they wake up and they start causing havoc. They're really territorial, so they're fighting each other. When they eat salamanders, they can breathe fire. And so Laurie and Nick are basically trying to stop the giants from destroying everything. What I really like is that the book itself is following sort of a burnt look. So obviously the back here, we've got it all like it's been burnt by a giant. The spine looks like it's been burned. And then the map at the front of the book has been burned as well. Nick's dad is basically a property developer, and so that's where they live, and the giants have destroyed the entire like community where they live. So yeah, Nick and Laurie are just trying to basically get the giants to go away, and they ask for the help of mermaids to sing and lure the giants away, and then they manage to do that, and then the giants end up disappearing. They manage to solve the problem, but it turns out that actually giants awake every 500 years to defeat a even bigger monster, a bigger threat, which I'm assuming is what the last book, The Wyrm King, is about. So I really enjoyed this. There wasn't a lot of action in it until sort of the very end, but it had a lot of sort of character moments, which I wasn't expecting because it is such a short book. Nick is a bit of a dick, but you can see why, because his mum has died and he's sort of processing the death of his mom, and dad is obviously remarried quite quickly, and he's just kind of trying to process all of that. He doesn't seem to get on with his dad very well because he is dealing with his grief. And I just think there is so much depth to these characters that you didn't see in the original Spiderwick Chronicles, so I'm really like enjoying this one. I kind of wish that the Disney Plus series was going to be about the last 3 books rather than the first 5, so I kind of hope that they do adapt these ones as well. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm looking forward to seeing the conclusion of it all. This series is definitely a lot more in depth, I suppose. It's got a lot more detail to it, and you can see how everything's planned out, whereas although the first 5 books were one big series, they were their own self-contained things that didn't really connect with each other very much. There's just a lot more to the Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles than there was in the originals. It just feels like the authors really planned things out more than they did with the first 5 books. So yes, I will be finishing off the series tomorrow most likely. I will probably get a start on this book this evening, but because I'm so tired I just want to go to bed. Yes, this is the very last book I'll be reading for this vlog, The Wyrm King. And we learned from the original Spiderwick Chronicles that worms are a type of dragon, so I'm assuming this is going to be about dragons. And because salamanders are basically like a small baby dragon that giants eat to breathe fire, I'm assuming that these are now the grown-up salamanders or something. I'm really excited to get stuck into this. All it has on the back is "It's over," which it is. This is the last Spiderwick book. Nearly 200 pages. So this is definitely the longest one, but I'm sure it'll be good. What are you doing on the table? Okay, it is a few days later, but whatever. I finally finished The Wyrm King. It was good. I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. It was good in the same way that A Giant Problem was good. It was good in the same way that the Nixie song was good. I think I definitely prefer this trilogy to the original quartet. Yeah, it was a good conclusion. It was a lovely ending to the Spiderwick Chronicles as a whole. It definitely leaves you with the feeling that although this story has concluded, the creatures and the fae that live in these pages are out there, and it kind of gives you the feeling like it's now your duty to go out and discover the fae and to go and save the world. So this book basically picks up exactly where we left off at the end of A Giant Problem, and Nick and the other kids have to go and save the world from the Wyrm King. Obviously, without giving away too much, it was a very exciting adventure that they all had. There were parts of it that I genuinely found quite scary and quite perilous for a children's book, so I was very thoroughly impressed. So I think I would rate Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles 4 stars, like the like the Spiderwick Chronicles. They were good. They weren't quite 5-star material for me, but I definitely really enjoyed them. Yes, so that is it. That is all 8 Spiderwick books completed. Finally. I'm really pleased that I have been able to read all of these books in such a short space of time. Not quite 24 hours like we had hoped, but it was still a very fun reading experience. I'm glad that I have given myself a chance at reading them because I've never read them before, and I'm really looking forward to the Disney Plus series now. I kind of hope that they do turn the Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles into a series as well, even if it's part of the series that they're doing for the original quartet, because I really enjoyed these. I think these were much more fleshed out and developed, and the characters I liked a lot more as well. Whereas with the Spiderwick Chronicles, they're a lot shorter, so there's not as much space for character development and everything seems to happen really quickly. So as much as I enjoyed them, I really hope that they do make Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles into a series as well, because I definitely preferred it, but these were still very good. Yes, so that's it from me in this video. If you enjoyed this, thank you so much for watching and sticking with me through my process of reading all 8 of these books. I'm glad that I can tick them off my list now and that they can go and be out of my life for a bit. It definitely got to a point where I felt like I was just being consumed by those books and I was getting a little bit sick of just reading everything, but I still enjoyed them. That is it from me today though in this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below telling me if you've read the Spiderwick Chronicles, what you thought of them, and if you would like to leave a comment but have nothing to say, leave the little spider emoji just to let me know that you are here. And that is it. So yes, thank you again. Bye!